Okay, so today we are here with Cornel Verster. Cornel is with Deloitte. He is a senior consultant in the cloud strategy team. So Cornel and I go back quite some time. Cornel was a student under my supervision from what year? Cornel, can you remember?
From 2009, from my
2009. Wow. Okay, that makes me feel old. But real privilege to have you here. So as I said, we just want to get some of your insights, especially since you're using engineering skills in a different domain. Maybe can you tell me, how did you end up in engineering to start off with?
Tinas, I think how I ended up in engineering was just a general interest in computers since when I was young. So computers, IT, programming, that stuff really caught my attention, and I had to kind of decide whether I would do direct computer science or electronic engineering, and always enjoyed the hardware side of things as well. So decided on electronic engineering with computer science that I could do both.
Every student has to do a final year project in their final year. Could you give me an indication of what you did as your final year project?
So my final year project was with you. It was a stressful few, but a very helpful and few months where I learned a lot. What I did was I had a prepaid electricity meter. So it was basically using a web application to interface with this meter so that you could upload tokens remotely and do some basic remote control of it.
If I remember right, that involved quite a lot of soldering and modifying of the existing prepaid meter.
A lot of remodification in the last few days of the project.
Yes, indeed. You've essentially moved away from electronic engineering. What do you do at the moment, the typical tasks?
So I started with Deloitte in their energy and resources team, and recently moved over to the cloud strategy team. Now, what I basically do on a day-to-day basis is I help mining clients to run more productive mines. Now, that touches everything from their systems to their to digitizing them, to helping their management, to helping them work with their people. We really do a wide scope of things, as we are, in a sense, a generalist consultancy. We won't design a plant ever, but we will help people to run the plant better or to manage the plant better. But what I do at the moment, what I'm focusing on is specifically digitization and analytics. So I will, for example, go into a mine and I will use their data to help them to manage better. How can you do production forecasts? And once you can do a accurate production forecast of what I'm producing, then that helps me to plan my logistics better. I can optimize for when I need to order ships to take my product to wherever my smelters are, or whatever it may be. And there's lots of application for that. Another thing I'm looking at on the project that I'm at now is stock optimization. So mines buy a lot of things, right? And they buy things all the time, millions and millions of rands. And the question is, how do I optimize that to make sure that I'm only buying what I need, firstly, and that I use what I buy, and that I keep the right amount, because there's a lot of value in that for them, and you can apply something like statistics and machine learning to those problems, which help them to optimize that. I worked for Eskom for a while, where I used some of my engineering, but after about a year there, I also joined a consulting team there. So then I also started focusing on management. And the other thing which I use regularly is programming. I code every day, so that I love that. That keeps me in touch with my technical side. So I'm glad it's never changed.
Yeah, I think you also had coding in my class, if I'm not mistaken.
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
You actually, I was reflecting on it the other day. You taught us how to do some, it was classic first year. I'm going to figure out how to do this, but I've got no idea what's actually going on. But reflecting on it was cool, because you realized it was a video solution, and it was quite advanced. I was reflecting.
I remember that. What skill that you acquired as an engineer have you found to be most useful in your current position?
Yeah, so that's actually a hard question, because I found a lot of skills to be useful. It would be hard to solo one out, but what I can say is that there are a few. So the one that I use a lot is statistics, because I do data science. I do quite a lot of analytical work, so that was a big one for me. Was that. And then another one, which everyone underestimates, but which is really important, is professional communication. I wish I'd listened in that class, because engineers think that the soft skills are not always so important. But when you get to the workplace, sometimes people with soft skills make it further just because they understand how to work with others. And then in general, I think, Tinus, there are a lot of skills which I took out of different, if you want to call it, subjects in engineering, related to how you design control systems, how you manage work. I mean, those things are actually cross-functional in terms of, in my work, I might have to develop a management program or help managers in a company to structure themselves. But I would use skills that I learned, for example, in control systems to do that. How do you develop feedback loops in those management systems? How do you make sure, how do you have processes in place that help people to communicate effectively? And I think there's a lot of skills that you can take out of the engineering field and apply it to a lot of fields. It's more, lots of people say it's a way of thinking, and I agree with that. It teaches you a way of thinking.
What do you think would be good advice for somebody who opts to study engineering?
I think that, two pieces of advice maybe. The first one is that it's normal to feel overwhelmed in your first while of doing engineering. I probably started genuinely enjoying, except for your class, of course, Tinus, but I started genuinely enjoying engineering probably in my third year, just because it took me time to get a grasp of a lot of the engineering concepts. And I think the first advice that I would give is, if you have a desire, I mean, you should study something which you think you can enjoy, or which you should have a motivation for it. But if you have a desire to do that, just know that if you feel overwhelmed by some of the concepts and the things, and if you get the classic imposter syndrome of, I was not cut out for this, don't listen to that, because that's how all of us feel, right? Yeah. When we're there. So the first one is just, there is a time in engineering where you just need to push through, or when you're studying engineering, and it's worth it in the end. And then the second one is, I would say it's okay to not know exactly what you want to do, because the engineering field is quite vast, right? I mean, you've got a year. I don't know if it's still like that, but in our first year we did general, and you had a year to kind of decide what you wanted to do. But the inclination towards something comes quite naturally, and as you go along, you'll realize, yes, this is something that I enjoy more, is something I'm more inclined to. So be on the lookout for that, and when you find that thing, make it a passion thing, right? It becomes that, but the best engineers are also people who really have a passion for what they do. It's not just a job, and I think engineering can be a cool hobby. So go for it. And
a calling and a cool hobby. No, I think that's very good advice, actually. Cool. Okay, Cornel, I really appreciate that. Thank you very much for sharing your experience. I'm pretty sure that's going to be useful to the matriculants or the guys deciding to study engineering next year. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Tinus.